All right. So welcome to the Vancouver Atlassian community or meetup here for May. So we'll be covering some of the announcements that Atlassian came out with at Atlassian Team 21, sort of the end of the last month, and then we've got our guest speakers to go through some of the advantages or some of the things that they can sort of help out with on there. So let's get started. One second. Okay, you can see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. All right, so at the Atlassian team presentation, there were sort of 5 major or significant product announcements that Atlassian came up with. This is really just sort of skimming the surface in terms of some of the content they shared, sort of focusing more on these new products or whatnot. There's lots more if you want to dig into information there, but basically there was 5 major announcements: Jira Work Management, Team Central, Compass, Jira Product Discovery, and Open DevOps. And all these sort of cater to different use cases and user groups that will sort of affect your own needs and businesses sort of differently. So the first of these was Jira Work Management. So this is sort of a version of Jira that provides templates and views for non-software development teams and functions. You know, Jira software, as they're calling it nowadays, is very sort of software development focused, with Scrum boards and Kanban boards and so on and so forth. But there's a lot of areas of the organization that still need work managed, work understood, and shared. And that's what really this sort of less expensive version of cloud is sort of catering to. It provides a number of simple templates for marketing, HR, finance, legal, design. Includes a wide variety of sort of like different views. So like you can have like a full list of your issues, a board similar to a Scrum board, a calendar or timeline. You can set up various forms. So if you're, an HR department or whatnot, and they have a request for things, it can all sort of be handled in there, as well as like basic reporting. So this is really as I say, it's sort of a companion piece to Jira software. I think it's basically sort of a bit of a rebranding, a rejigging of the old Jira core, where it's more sort of, again, focused to these non-development teams. So if you've got an organization, part of your organization that covers these sort of things, it may be something that's worth looking into. Next up is Team Central. This is currently in beta. Sorry, the previous one is available now. You can just Google it and start out a free trial if you'd like the Jira Work Management. Team Central is sort of a single user-friendly source for project status, curated directly from Jira. This one seems very exciting to me, because we're constantly trying to wrap together various different status reports and things like that. This sort of cuts that all out and sort of provides, lets teams provide updates on the project status roughly for the length of a tweet. And there's no sort of like long and elaborate project status documentation that you've got to put together. So stakeholders can easily get details on these projects in real time. They can see what's on track, what's at risk. There's like a full project history, so you can see if it's been successful. You can see what the goals of the project are, and who's contributing to it, and how I contact those people, and so on and so forth. So this one's currently available in beta. If you've got a Jira Cloud instance, you can start playing around with it right away there. So next is Compass. This is more sort of an alpha. And this is more of a single place for bringing engineering output and teams collaborating on it together. It's sort of an outline of your different software components. Teams can quickly determine component owners, repos, documentations, scorecards to sort of see how well structured things are. So if you're pushing out a piece of software, a particular component, you can make sure this has documentation, it has the right sort of comms channel, the right support, that people are all sort of aware of what needs to be done there. So they've got additional reporting in the pipeline, but they didn't have anything to show at this point. And this is here to sort of get teams pointed in the right direction and encourage sort of best practices without being a burden or anything like that. So, all right. Next up, this is sort of on the horizon, is Jira Product Discovery. This is sort of an add-on or a version of Jira that is entirely around this creating a specific view for the ideation and discovery in the early stages of product development. Product owners can use this to prioritize their backlog for the big ideas, rank them on a variety of different criteria based off of a priority score or other sort of value metrics, voting and whatnot. So this is still very much at the pre-alpha, with more details to come. But speaking firsthand, my organization, we've got a large sort of product team and are always looking for ways to sort of improve upon this. So we're quite excited about this product here that's upcoming. The last major announcement they had was talking about Open DevOps. This is a tool chain for mixing and matching Atlassian tools with other vendors to sort of build and ship software. This sort of uses the Jira project as sort of a central hub beyond simple planning, so you can quickly view code, deployments, documentation, on-call schedule, and more. So this is there's already lots of integrations with third-party apps to better sort of connect teams with their tools. So this is definitely worth checking out if you're in the cloud and wanting to connect to things like that if you're not using Bitbucket and you're using GitHub or GitLab or something along those lines, this can sort of provide you with that third-party integration to sort of tightly connect it so that the work you're doing is tightly connected to the tools that you're using to build it. So so that sort of covers the bulk of the sort of new functionality that Atlassian has in the pipe there. If there's any immediate questions to that, feel free to add them to the chat board there. Otherwise, I can hand it over to our guest speakers. So, Peter, Rickard, you can say a little bit about yourselves. You're joining us from Sweden there.
Yeah, that's right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having us. My name is Rickard, and we're joining in from outside of Stockholm, Sweden. So for us, it's 9 o'clock in the evening, and I heard that you're having lunch. That's unfair.
Well, that's funny, yeah.
And
okay.
with me today is also Peter. Peter is my brother. And also we have John. John is working with sales, but he's on mute, so he's probably saying hello in text. And I will try and share my screen here.
Okay.
Yeah. Did it pop up?
Yeah. No, that looks good there.
Perfect. Yes, as mentioned, we're from Sweden, me and my brother. We're doing Jira apps for the Atlassian marketplace, and we are also doing customized apps for different companies that have certain needs that they cannot find on the marketplace. Currently, we have 2 apps out on the marketplace, both for server, none for the cloud yet. One is the inbox for Jira, which gives the notification icon whenever something happens that requires your attention. And also the integrations hub for Jira that we will talk about today. So during the day, we will cover on the agenda, why did we build it, and how to think when setting up integrations. And we will also do some live demos. We have prepared 3 demos. I'm not sure that we're gonna have time to cover them all, but there's one system-to-system collaboration demo, and there's a team onboarding demo, and some Slack chat integration demo as well. So I think I will hand over to you, Peter, to start with. I will be your...
Absolutely.
I will control the PowerPoint for you.
Thank you. So this is a little bit just a background about the tool that we're going to present, which is called the Integration Hub. And it's really about building integrations to any system. So we don't pre-package like a system-to-system integration that you can plug and play. We just make it more like Postman, enable you to do any integration. So we try to do this so you can reduce the time to build an integration and the time to maintain an integration. So you can see that it's more configuration over actually doing some coding. So we're trying to remove that barrier of coding layer. We're also being like system agnostic in the tool and helping out or giving it the possibility to search easy in the logs and see what's happening actually when an integration is live, and remove the development skill requirement. We got a quote from Rickard who using the tool, saying that it now takes minutes instead of hours of building integrations. He used to code it, and now he's more configuring it instead. Next slide. So if you look at the tool landscape today in most of the companies, even smaller companies, there are a lot of tools that are used. You have some kind of financial tools, you have maybe another team in Monday, or you have your own built system or an LDAP system, or you have teams in some organizations using Teams, and others using Slack. And in the central piece is usually Jira. So people tend to go to Jira to do their work, but they don't want to update tickets or update systems multiple times. And that's where iHub or Integration Hubs comes in. It really gives the possibility to send updates from Jira tickets to any system that has a REST API. Next slide, please. So the integration tool basically stands on 3 pillars. It's being the triggers. Something happens when in Jira. So there's a Jira event, issue event, there's a post function, or some scheduled job that are running to pull data from external system to update tickets, or an incoming request from external system that sends data to Jira or to Integration Hub, and we take that data and map that to an issue. So we can actually, Jira doesn't have to understand that request by itself, because iHub will translate that request for it. On that, we also have the conditions, so we can route it. Where should this issue be created, in what project, or should it even be created? And finally is the action part, where we have a few, kind of a lot of actions that you can perform, like updating a ticket or chaining it to send it off to multiple systems after you received it in Jira. Next slide. So if you look at the integration flow, it typically looks like this in any integration you build with Atlassian tools. So you get something is happening inside Jira. It triggers an event, an issue is created or commented or updated. It sends off a request to external system. It could be Salesforce, and Salesforce receives that request, creates a case, responds back with the case number, and you take that response and update the issue with the referenced ID of that remote system. Could be the incident number or whatever you're creating in the third-party system. So that is like a typical chain of flow, which you can continue to build on if you have more complex scenarios. It could be like you want to iterate over a set of data that comes back from the system, or even if you're pulling all the user from Slack, you get back like a paginated response, and you need to go through each page of that request. All those things you can do with Integration Hub. Next one. Yeah, and the next important part, which is kind of complex sometimes when you build integrations, is to do the authentication. Basic is probably not a problem. You just provide a username and password. Barrier token is also kind of simple in that sense. You provide a header with a barrier token inside it. So we all package these ones. So you just fill in the form with the username, password, or barrier token. The third one, which is the OAuth2 connection, is more complex and mostly used when it comes to more external systems that are cloud-based, like Google or Azure, Salesforce, ServiceNow, and so on. Those systems rely on the OAuth2 connections to be established. So we provide a way to establish those OAuth2 connections, and then you can just point to that authentication and use that in any integration you do towards that system. And the fourth one is the custom headers, where it's typically AWS Lambda function, where you have a custom header that you want to add to your request to be authenticated. So you can go to the next one. So we'll show you a little bit how this looks like in practice, where we have one use case comes from a customer story, where we have a customer that has service. Are you going to show ServiceNow or the Salesforce?
I'm going to show Salesforce, but it's
okay.
It says ServiceNow.
Yeah. There's
both
two.
of them,
yeah, both of them are customer stories, but so Salesforce, their commercial team is in Salesforce, and their development team is in Jira, and how that flow can be going back and forth without even leaving Jira. Okay, Rickard, take it away.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, as Peter mentioned, it's going to be Salesforce, not ServiceNow. So in Jira, I have a board, Salesforce development board, currently empty. And here in Salesforce, I have configured Salesforce to do a web request towards the Integrations Hub endpoint within Jira whenever a new case is created in Salesforce. So I will create a new case. You have to set origin when doing it like this. Here it is. It's Jason Bourne, who can't log in. He has so someone calls into Salesforce, and I enter case, and I click save in Salesforce, and behind the scenes a web request goes off to Jira. And if I go back to my Salesforce development team board, I hopefully now have an issue, and that I have. So I have the issue that says can't log in. As a description, I have the description I put in Salesforce, and I also have a strange number here. This is the reference ID of the Salesforce case. So I store that on the Jira issue, so I'm able to talk back to Salesforce whenever I do any changes on this issue. So in this case, I've configured the integrations hub to listen to update events on the transition when I move from backlog to any other state. So if I put this story in progress, integrations hub will wake up in the background. It will receive the event that Jira posts, and it will trigger an API call to Salesforce saying that something has happened with this issue. So if I go back to Salesforce and reload the page of the case, I see that I have a comment on this case that says that we're on it, and it also has the reference ID of the Jira issue and also the status. And in this demo, it's just a comment on the Salesforce case, but of course it could be mapped onto any Salesforce case attribute. So it could be a much deeper integration. You can select to transfer files back and forth as well. But in this demo, it's just a comment. So I will briefly show how this was set up. So within, if you go to Manage Apps, if you have the Integrations Hub installed, you will have a menu saying Integrations Hub. So basically, this is the UI. We have outbound integrations and inbound integrations. Outbound is anything that goes out from Integrations Hub. It could be to a remote system. It could be to the Jira instance itself, the Jira API to create an issue, for example. So in this case, I have first set up an inbound integration that receives the Salesforce web hook onto Jira, and from that inbound, mapped it to an outbound that uses the Jira API to create an issue. So I have within, this is all my integrations that I've set up in my test environment. So if I go down to Salesforce, I have this action that Peter mentioned. Everything, we call everything actions. That's something that happens. It's sort of a web request that goes out from the Integrations Hub. So in this action, I've do some specifications. I say that from the web request that comes in from Salesforce, I do a JSON path to parse out the case number, the description, the subject, and the ID. And this, as Peter mentioned, is sort of system agnostic. We take whatever request that comes into the Integrations Hub web receiver, and then you can use a JSON path to extract any data that you're interested in. So in this case, I was interested in case number and case ID and subjects. And then I enter a web URL. In this case, it's onto my own URL, my Jira instance, and I use the Jira API to create an issue. I do a post. I use one of the authentication methods that Peter mentioned. I've set up a basic auth authentication that's valid for my Jira instance. And further down the page, I have the body, and this is the payload that Integration Hub will send to the Jira API to create a new issue. And in this request body, you can use the variables. In this case, I use the subject, which maps to the subject up on top of the page that is sort of mapped from the request that comes from Salesforce. So that everything is dynamic in that case. And so this is Mustache language syntax. And up here, it's the JSON path for extracting JSON path data. So that's how I managed to create an issue on the incoming request from Salesforce. And then I also created an action that says update case comment. And that's the comment I sent back to Salesforce when the state changes. So it's sort of set up the same. I I select the web method, the URL. This is the URL to my Salesforce API, my Salesforce instance, and the case comment Salesforce API. In this case, I use a Salesforce auth2 connection as an authentication method. And further down, I have the payload. So Salesforce requires the payload to look like this. So hence it's how it looks. And I use the issue. The issue is always available in your variable scope, and you can use a dot notation to get hold of any variable needed. For example, the key or the status name or the custom field. This is the reference ID within the Salesforce case that was created. So I use the custom field, and this is how Salesforce interprets the request body. And then to trigger this action, to make it happen, you must set up something. And also, Peter mentioned, we can listen on post functions or issue events or do it periodically using a cron expression, and everything is set up during in this section the triggers and conditions. So in this case, I said that on every event that Jira sends off, you only on this project, and only when this field is changed. So if all these three conditions evaluates to be true, my integration will be triggered. And if I go into the logging part, this section, I can see the data that was actually sent. So this data is the parsed data, where the variables have been substituted with the actual values. And further down, you will see the response from Salesforce. So now, as Peter mentioned also, that it could be changed in more steps. So if I create a new action, I can put this action as a parent. My new action will then receive this data as input, and then I can do anything I want with this data. Send it to a third-party system or anything like that. Yes. So a little bit about the UI. Outbound and inbound integrations, credentials. This is where you set everything up. The basic OAuth, the tokens, and the OAuth2 connections. And you can also put in static variables that can be used in any integration, so you don't have to write a hard code URLs. You can use a variable instead. You can set up templates to speed up development of different integrations. So we have a few set up already for Bitbucket and Confluence and Jira, and the most common to use the Atlassian tools, so to speak. And of course, you can import and export data if you're using some data on a test environment, and then you want to export it into the production environment. You go into this section to cover that, and also some settings on how to make the application visible for users or not. You can put in extensions. We have one extension that supports Kafka message queuing instead of REST. So you can add this Kafka message queuing support. Currently not yet approved by the Atlassian marketplace, but it's very soon out there, available on the marketplace. And also we have a JSON path test tool. So if you want to evaluate your JSON paths that you're using for variable extraction, you can put in the payload in this box and the JSON path on top of here and click evaluate, and you will see the response here in this section, whether if it's evaluated correctly or not, and some links to the documentation. Yes, I think that was it for the system collaboration demo. So I will leave over to you, Peter, to do one of the
Okay.
two demos, or both of them if we have time.
Absolutely. I think you need to stop sharing.
Yeah,
to
I will
make
do
this
that.
happen. Now it seems to pop up a
Yeah.
little bit better.
I think it's your turn.
Okay. Does anything pop up?
It's currently a black screen, but hopefully it'll
Okay.
get there in a
Turn to
sec.
black.
The black window. Let me try again. I can do. What about something popping up now? Or is it black?
Seems to be still black there.
What? Okay, I'm gonna do the whole.
Either usually it's easiest with the entire screen. Sometimes the window it gets confused.
Wait. How about now?
Ah, there we go.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So yeah, I see we got like 19 minutes left. So we got two demos. One is like an onboarding of teams, where this is your service desk. So if in this case there were a company that had a problem with growth, they're growing constantly a lot of teams, and they wanted to automate their onboarding process. So we did that with our Integrations Hub, and by setting up like a Jira Service Desk form that anyone could go in and order team resources. So let's say that this is I have just one hand. Team Bank, like that. So they can provide like the name of the team, a team key, and what kind of project they want to do, and what kind of Git repository that they're using. So let's say GitHub, and they also wanted a Confluence space, and let's put in a user that ordered this one, or that should have the developer role. You can customize this as you know, with Jira, with any field available that you have installed. So the thing was that they went in here and clicked create, and if I just refresh this one, what's happening is that the Integrations Hub in the background looked at the resources that you checked and created a Kanban project that should be available here. Yeah. And it's actually pointed to the wrong board, but let's open this one, the Vanc board. And it also created the resource for a GitHub project. So if I check this one, we now have the in our repository account, we have or in our account, we have a Vanc repository that we can start cloning directly. And thirdly, it also had created a Confluence space, so we can check that. And we do now have a team space for Vancouver Home. And all these resources were created using the REST API. So it went out and talked to GitHub, it went out to talk to Confluence, and even Jira's internal API for creating the project. And there you can set up a lot of different project templates to utilize. But for the end user, their experience was that they almost immediately got back the resources that they were requesting, and could start working. We added a slightly manual check before they send this off. Now it sends off directly on create, but in the real world, we added that the agent that received it just checked that they didn't put in like invalid characters. In the end, we also added some conditions and validators on top of it to make it even more safe. So if I open up the ticket, it's like a normal Jira service desk ticket. The main difference here is that we have added a integration tab. So that tab shows everything that was ongoing when you created the form or created the ticket. So we can now see that we have created a Confluence space. We got back a result of 200 is usually okay. So everything 200 seems good. So we did a lot of actions that triggered these things to happen and commented back to the ticket all the links that they needed to have. Let me open up that in there. If I go to the Manage Apps again, to Integrations Hub down here, then we can see that we have added a package called Onboarding. So this is just a folder, and in the folder we have added the rules that we want to be run. So if we look at one of them, maybe GitHub could be interesting. We can see that this one has, let's check the triggers, as a trigger that listens to an event in the IT support project with application, if you selected application GitHub repo. And what this does then is to post the request to GitHub API, the user repo, with an auth credential and some headers that were supplied. These are all in GitHub documentations, what you need to supply, but it seems kind of straightforward what headers it was. And then finally, we also added the name of the repo, which comes from the custom field. So it was IT sub. Let's check the number of it, 75. So you can check that. If you want to resolve that body, you can check that JSON payload before sending it off to the remote host also when you're configuring it. So that seems to be working good. In the execution log, as Rickard showed you, we can see it's now an issue created on this one. And we can see the response back was kind of big from GitHub. We can see that a lot of data came back, URLs and everything, permission models and stuff like that. So that data we use down here in the, if I expand this one to get back the URL, and Rickard showed you before the how you set up the JSON path, but you can also click this box, auto-generate the first level. It will basically do a variable for everything that is in the JSON response for you, so you don't have to write expressions. Expressions is handy if you have more complex JSON structure and you really need the first array item, or you need the ID of some ID, then you can use that. If you have more simple responses that I got, we did actually put this one down here, so we can see that it's get this one from the response and it auto added as a variable. All right, and the same goes with other things. It's basically almost the same. So if you look at Confluence, the only difference is we send to the Confluence API. We use a basic authentication. And the body looks a little bit different down here. Or Confluence expect some kind of payload to be formatted in a way that it cannot be understood from the request. So that's pretty much it, I think. I see we have 10 minutes left, and I have one more demo prepared, but I think it's much better to pause here, open up for questions and see if there's any discussions around the topic. So I think I just stop this presentation now.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions from in the group there, just raise your hand here. I can grant you permissions if you want to hop on with video or whatnot. While we're waiting, a couple questions that I had. Does it handle any kind of like one-to-many? Because I know that we've got connectivity with Salesforce via like a service Rocket add-on. And one thing is that, in our setup, there's often multiple Salesforce tickets associated with a single Jira ticket. Does iHub handle that, or is it strictly one-to-one?
You could have multiple tickets connected to our Salesforce cases. I would then use the only thing is to store the reference. So the reference might be stored in a list, and for that I would typically use Insight for Jira if you have that installed.
Okay, is that another add-on or?
Yeah, the other the add-on that Atlassian bought recently was Insight for Jira Asset Management.
Right.
That one handles like list items. You could also use multiple custom fields. Like it's not a prettier solution like temp 1, temp 2, temp 3, but somewhere you need to store the key for it.
Yeah.
If you want to like push back information when you update the ticket status or comment on it, and it should go to all of those instances. That is probably the most simple solution for it.
Okay.
All
right. And you were saying that you were working on a cloud version. Do you anticipate any sort of difference in functionality? Because I know they're obviously very different sort of systems.
Yeah, we've seen there's different. I don't know really exactly how much different it will be, because now we are running everything on REST-based APIs, as you saw. We don't really integrate with the Java API in that sense when you update, but there will probably be some limitations that we will see that gives the cloud is giving us. But right now I think we should be fairly okay with it, maybe even better in one way.
Nice.
Yeah, since we're out of prem, we do a pen tested this solution for one of the bank customers, which went successfully. So we have an external company that pen tested it. If you want to like open up like a single URL to just point to that points to the iHub incoming API and send data to that. So we tried that solution.
Mm-hmm. And your second example there, is there, if you're creating all those things automatically or whatnot, is there like, can you insert a barrier where somebody needs to grant approval before all those actions happen, just off of
Yes.
You get the request and then okay.
Yeah, exactly. That could happen also. I can share. Yeah, so it's really not the limitation. There's no limitation, but don't you have the workflow Jira? So the only thing right now, we send everything on request on create, but you could easily add like a service desk approval flow.
Okay.
We have that for an access management system we built. So they actually request to be added to a certain LDAP group, and to be inserted into that LDAP group, they need to pass through some approval steps before, and that is all done by Jira. And in the end of one of those transitions, then it basically adds an iHub post function. Open up this one. Yeah, we can take this. And then I have to just switch. Yeah, so we added a post function after the gateways, and selected the integration trigger.
Right.
To send it up, and then select one.
Okay. And if you wanted only specific people to be able to trigger this, you'd have to bake that into the permission scheme for the project, right?
Yeah, exactly. That is what the approval step would basically cater for, I think. You can also add on an integration like this, you could add like the event trigger only if this actor is doing it. Must be Sven, for instance, doing this action. Then it should go away.
Gotcha.
But this was originally added because of when an integration user is doing stuff, you don't want to send that back again to the system. So integration user is doing a comment, and you don't want to send that comment back to the system doing the comment. So we added this like a condition to block that.
Okay.
For it. For incidents, it's kind of funny when it comes to talking to lots of systems. You mentioned one-to-many. If you report like a system problem, yeah, major breakdown. Oh, it's always do like that. Pops it there. And create a ticket. We for now, as you see, it pops up. Send this ticket information out to a channel, a Slack channel. Like,
right.
So you do have this functionality for other add-ons as well. Like this is now created a new incident, major breakdown.
Right.
The main thing or the cool thing we add on top of this one is that if you say that if you acknowledge this one and say that, okay, I really think this is an add-on or an incident that is happening, then we can do like things like creating a separate Slack channel for it. So IT-SUP76 is now created, and we also looked up the system owners of that system and brought them in to that channel. So these kind of integrations you can build. And that could go to Slack, and it can even go to this is Teams, so it went to both Teams and Slack with the same kind of setup from iHub.
No.
And further on, so you can create it in an incident in status page. Here's this one coming up. So it doesn't really limit you to that system only. You can send it out to many systems to inform about things are happening. So, kind of versatile. I'll stop that sharing.
Nice. All right. Well, I know it's getting late for you guys. Are there any other questions from anybody in the audience? Don't see any, but
yeah, it seems
everybody's quiet.
Everyone is hungry.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. Greatly appreciate it. And we'll post the recording to our YouTube channel or whatnot, and sort of
cool.
reach some of the other community there. But if there's anything else that all right. Thanks very much, guys. You have a good evening. And
thank you so much
for having
us.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
All righty.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.